In today's project, we're going to make a field of pumpkins using realistic space, showing our pumpkins being large in the front and small when they're far away. We're going to be using a secondary color scheme, which is orange, greens, and purples. This is a slightly unfinished example from a previous year. You can use colored paper like on this one, or you can use white paper, whatever you have. We also will need some supplies that have secondary colors. So you could use crayons with your purple, orange, and green. We could use colored pencils. We could use markers. And here I have some secondary colored color sticks, which are like colored pencils with no wood. They're just all color. These are really great for filling in large areas of space. You don't have to peel the paper off like the crayons. It's already just there for you to use. If you have oil pastels, whatever you have, you can use those as well. And any combination of these would be good. So if you only have one green crayon, then you might want to also use some green marker and some green colored pencil. That way you can get more than one green happening in your picture. With all of our assignments this year, you can combine as many materials as you feel comfortable with to get a variety of color happening in your artwork, because I know not everyone has a large pack of crayons with a ton of different colors. So we might want to combine these materials to get as many different varieties of color as we can. So for this project, one black marker or black crayon if you don't have a marker, and as many different greens, purples, and oranges as you have. We will also be using a pencil to start out to make sure that we can erase any mistakes as needed. So let's get started. We're going to start with our horizon line of our field, which should be a little higher than halfway, and I'm going to make my line a little bit bumpy because my hill is a little bit grassy and it wouldn't be too straight if it's natural. I'm going to make that a little darker to make sure you can see it. You do not have to draw it very dark. You can make it a little bumpy if you want to show the texture of the grass way back there. And we're going to add some other levels of our hill to show where these pumpkins are going to sit. So I'm going to add another little kind of textury line here to show where my pumpkin will go here. I'm going to add another line, and I'll actually wait to do any more grass texture for a minute because I'm not sure where my pumpkin's going to go. So let's just add those lines here. So I've got one. I'm going to put a pumpkin here, I'm going to put a pumpkin here, and I'm going to put a pumpkin right down here on the very bottom of the page. So I'm not going to add a line there. So let me erase that grass. I don't need that yet because my pumpkin might cover it up. I'm just not sure. So I've got 3, maybe even 4 levels of space. I've got the bottom of the page, I have the middle, I have a little higher than the middle, and I have the very back. So this horizon line has separated the sky. My sky is up here, and everything down here is my hill. Now to draw my pumpkins, I need to make sure that the ones that are low on the page are the biggest, and each one that I draw has to get a little bit smaller. So I'm going to start with my biggest pumpkin because that will be easiest to draw. So I'm going to start by making a nice big skinny oval. That's going to be the center of my pumpkin. If your oval looks a little bit different than mine, it's okay because every pumpkin looks different. And I'm just going to add on some extra real skinny C lines here, like real skinny long C's on either side of my thing here. Now make sure that these lines go all the way from the top to the bottom, from here all the way down here. If you do them kind of like this, sometimes people make them, they get real skinny, and that doesn't look like a pumpkin. So make sure they go all the way from the bottom to the top. And you keep going until you like the roundness of your pumpkin. I'm going to add one more right there. I think that one is pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple more little bumps back here to show the parts of the pumpkin in the back. And I'm going to add my stem of my pumpkin in there as well. That pumpkin is finished. We're going to leave it there for now. Now I'm going to move up on my paper a little bit. It's got to sit a little higher on the hill because it's farther away. So as we move up the hill, this pumpkin needs to be a little shorter. So maybe take your pencil and measure how tall you made the first pumpkin. So if I made the first pumpkin that big, I need to make sure that the next pumpkin is smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another oval, but this time it's a little bit shorter in the center for my next pumpkin. And I'm going to repeat the same process with my skinny C shapes. And remember, if your lines get a little bit wobbly or thicker or thinner in some places, it's okay because it'll just make your pumpkin look unique. And I think that pumpkin is done. I'm going to add my stem first this time. I think that works better. If you like it like that, you can leave it, or you can add a couple little bumps back here to show the part of the pumpkin behind there. And the next pumpkin needs to be smaller than this one, so I can use my pencil again to measure. Say, okay, my pumpkin is this tall from here to here. So if I move my pencil and I move it here, I just want to make sure that it's smaller. So I don't want to make it that tall. Let's maybe make it this tall. So I'm going to put this one, I think it might actually look better if I move it right here. I'm going to put my third pumpkin right here. I'm going to put it right there. So just make sure that it is smaller than my last pumpkin, and it is. Good. So it's okay to change your mind about where you want to put the pumpkins. You want to put them, arrange them on your hill so that they look nice. We want it equally balanced all the way around. You don't want too many pumpkins on the right side of the page than the left side, and then it would be off balance. So notice that I kind of drew on top of my horizon line right there. That's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase my horizon line. That way it looks like my pumpkin is in front of the hill. And again, I'm going to add my stem, and I'm going to add my small little bumps back here to make it look like the back side of the pumpkin. And I'm going to add one more pumpkin. I'm going to make it real small, and I'm going to sit it right on top of the hill. It's really far away. It is very small, and it is very high on the page. And I'm just going to repeat my same pumpkin drawing process. This one got real tiny because he's very far away. I think that looks good for now. So I'm going to go back now and add my grass line. So I'm going to kind of draw some kind of spiky, zigzaggy sort of lines next to my pumpkins to show the grass that is growing next to them, to show that texture of my grass. And you can do it different if you want. There's lots of different ways we can use line to indicate the texture of grass. This is just one way. So please don't copy my exact drawing. You can choose different placement for your pumpkins. You can do more or less pumpkins, but we should have at least 3 pumpkins to show the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, to have some that are really close, a little bit farther away, and then really far away. So if you want to have more, that's okay, but at least 3. And I can maybe fill in a few more little lines to show a little bit of grass right there. Maybe I could do it like this. I could show some sprigs of grass poking out like that. Maybe I do that up here. I could do them like this, a little bit of grass growing out there. Maybe I add a few more lines to show more really tall grass next to this pumpkin. Maybe a few more like this. And you can add little bits of texture throughout the hill as well, however you want to show it. So now we're going to go ahead and outline with our black color. If you have a marker, use that. If you have a crayon, use that. Anything that is black. We're going to outline these pumpkins now. And I will probably fast forward through the video, so just take your time, pause it where you need to. Now notice that I outline my pumpkins with black and I outline my grass texture lines with green to show that green of the grass. So marker is usually going to stand out more than your crayon or your colored pencil. So you're going to want to outline those details with marker first and fill in larger spaces with crayons and colored pencils. So let's start with our coloring for our pumpkins. So if you have a lighter orange and a darker orange, we will want to use that to show highlights on our pumpkin. So especially in this bigger one, it will be easy to show one side of this that is lighter. So maybe the top left sort of part of my pumpkin, I can do a lighter orange. And I can do that same part on all of my pumpkins over here like this. And maybe there's a little bit shiny on this side so we're showing some light happening on our pumpkin. So when I got to the middle, I just kind of shifted to that outside side there. And when you get back to this small one, it might be hard to show any highlights on that one depending on how small you did them, but you just do your best. Put them in where you can fit it. And I'm going to use my darker orange now, my crayon, to finish coloring this in. And I can even use lighter and darker pressure. So I can press hard with my crayon and then I can blend it out lighter and fade it out if I want to show those values in my pumpkin. And I can take that lighter color and even go back over and blend it down into that lighter part that I shaded. So I'm going from dark to light where I did next to the highlights that I did, so it's lighter coloring there. And so again, dark to light with my orange. And I can go back over that again and blend that down together, press harder with my lighter orange and blend it into that lighter value that I did. And do that again here. If you are having trouble with changing the pressure of your crayon, that's okay. You just do what you can do. Just practice. Everybody try your best. Okay, so I've changed the pressure from light to dark on these. I'm just kind of going actually now and starting at the bottom. When I get to these smaller pumpkins, I can just color hard at the bottom and lighten up my pressure and just color lighter as I get to the top. Maybe all of this one is just orange because he's pretty tiny. I'm going to take my light orange now and fill in where I did that lighter pressure to blend it together. Lighter pressure. Don't forget your little bumpy parts for the back part of your pumpkin that are way back there. I'm just going to use my lighter color for that. And if you want to do black or brown for your pumpkin stems, that's okay. You can use either color. I'm going to use a little black because that's what I've got right here. And so now I've used at least 2 different oranges in my pumpkin to show some value. If you're using oil pastel, you can do like in this example and use the yellow and the white blends together even better with our color there. So now we're going to do our grass. You can pick as many different greens as you want and we can kind of fill those in. Now I'm going to choose to do darker color down here at the bottom. I'm going to use the side of my color stick to lightly fill this in first. You can use the side of a crayon if you want. I'm just going to fill this in. I'm going to use a lighter one up here in the middle space to blend together with that one. So I'm lightly coloring so that I can blend multiple greens together in different areas. And I don't want to cover up the green that I did with my marker. I still want to be able to see that. So we don't want to color too hard with that space. Notice that I'm using even pressure so that I don't get scribbly lines. I think my darker one could be a little bit darker, so I'm going to go back over this one. If you have a yellow green, most of your crayon boxes have a yellow green, like a really light green. You could do that in the very back here. I don't have a yellow green on my table right now, so I'm going to make one by blending my green and my yellow together. And I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow back here, back by my horizon line to blend with my green. Way back here. Hopefully the color translates well. Camera on this is not the best. Alright, and so we have a blended green field for our pumpkins to live in. And now we're going to use our different purples to do our sky. So again, you can use whatever you have to fill that in. I'm going to start with some marker and create some lines just so that my sky is a little bit more interesting. I'm going to do some swirly kind of patterns in here to create a little bit of movement and interest in my sky, using some diagonal curvy lines. And I'm going to blend that out together with some different purple colors. And notice that I'm using a variety of thin and thick lines to make my design. I think that looks more interesting than a solid purple sky, don't you? You can add stars in there if you want, however you want to do it. And I'm going to use, again, my color stick to blend in some color now, very lightly. And I'll go ahead and fast forward this. You can just watch as you want.